Building a startup is like jumping from a cliff and building the plane on the way down. Failure is okay. If you go out and do something and it fails, this is okay. You should reflect the learnings and you should know what you will do better next time. There has been a time in Germany and Europe where failing was a problem. But this time changed. Joining early stage startups is a good way. You take risks. Yeah, you go into these early companies and you know there's a relatively high likelihood that this will fail, but you do it nonetheless. Deep tech is about the application of a novel science in a product for the first time. These are companies that require deeper scientific knowledge and understanding, often more capital, often more time to become successful.
Is this an opportunity for Europe?
Possibly it's the opportunity for Europe in the tech space. The best companies have been found in the last financial crisis. Yes? These times are perfect for entrepreneurship. Dare to enter the arena.
What do you look in an entrepreneur?
There's one thing that really matters in this, and this is...
Today's guest is one of Europe's leading minds in tech and entrepreneurship, Dr. Martin Schilling. A serial founder, angel investor, and former COO of N26, Martin has spent the past 15 years building and scaling companies across the globe, from Germany to Saudi Arabia to Argentina. Martin also unpacks the future of deep tech and why it might be Europe's best shot at leading global innovation. My name is Luardo, and this is the Guten Tag Podcast. Let's dive in. We want to thank one of our sponsors for supporting this podcast. WonderTax is a platform that makes your tax declaration in Germany easy. Try it out for free and only submit if you're fully satisfied. Visit gutentag.wondertax.de and give it a try. Now, without further ado, let's start with the conversation. Martin Schilling, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Lodo. Nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
I bought a very interesting book. This book that I show here, The Builder's Guide to the Tech Galaxy, 99 Practices to Scale Startups into Unicorn Companies. I was reading this, and this is like a blueprint on how to start, how to scale, and how to actually manage a large organization.
Correct. But it's not a bedtime lecture, I guess, right? So you can't digest it like a novel, but I think it's helpful for entrepreneurs.
Where did the idea come from to start this book?
So I was working at N26 here in Berlin FinTech, a really cool company where we had the challenge to scale the company from around 300 people to 1,500 in less than 2 years. Massive. Imagine this. You're literally tripling in size every year. And I was looking for a book or some content where I could learn how others have done this. Yeah, scaling a company. It's not founding a company, it's scaling a company. So, and then I went through all the verticals that a company has, so marketing, operations, tech, and so on, and have written down practices, KPIs, OKRs, how to do this as a source of inspiration.
And when you worked there at N26, would you say that that was your breakthrough moment when you saw the growth and you had the biggest challenge in your career?
Hey, look, there were many breakthrough moments at N26. So what I came from a world, I founded a company before. I worked for many years as well in South America, but I have been a founder my whole life. And then I worked many years in consultancy, and particularly at McKinsey. And then leaving the consultancy world and seeing this tech world full of optimism, hope, confidence, but as well of collaboration and really fast moving. There were many breakthrough moments. You do need to recognize if you do this, if you enter our world, it's often a world with many crises. Yeah. So because when you build these companies, you're forging them in an arena. Yeah? You just have to recognize this. This is not a stable, large cruise ship where you join. You are building this. One of our investor friends from the US, Reid Hoffman, said, building a startup is like jumping from a cliff and building the plane on the way down. That captures it quite well. And these kind of books and contents really help you build the plane fast.
You mentioned Reid Hoffman. He has a very famous quote that if you're not embarrassed of the first version of your product, then
you've launched too late. Exactly.
You launched too late.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to talk about a little bit about your career because I find it very interesting what you have done, also what it takes to become an investor, what an entrepreneur needs to have, and also about the current state of tech in Germany and in Europe. So let's start from N26. You were hired there to be the COO.
Correct. So we had around 300 people. Yeah. So you need to recognize this is a typical company with product market fit. Yeah. So in our world, if you use this word product market fit, that just means you're pushing up a rock up the hill, and then it rolls down 2 meters. You're pushing it up 3 meters again. It's a long, stressing way to pull up this rock. But if you've reached product market fit, it's like you're running behind this big rock on the other side of the hill because it now rolls down. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was the situation when I was joining N26. Literally, the company super fast growing. We had already 300 employees, but we had to grow massively the company because the customer base was growing so fast. Yeah? So that was the situation, and it was fun to do this and insightful. And I can only recommend, if you have the option to, join these kind of companies, both early stage or late stage, this is always, the learning curve is steep.
I never had the chance to do that. Every company where I was working, I was hoping that it will be like that. And sometimes it was the opposite. So they didn't find them.
Yeah, correct. Hey, but look, even if it does go the opposite, there is a lot of learning from failure. And, this is something we definitely changed in Germany and Europe in the last, let's say, 10 years. Failure is okay. If you go out and do something and it fails, this is okay. You should reflect the learnings and you should know what you will do better next time. But there has been a time in Germany and Europe, I would say 10 years ago and beyond, where failing was a problem.
Do you think that that's been now adopted in Germany?
Yes, more and more. So obviously, we in Europe have a bit more cautious, a bit less maybe ambitious mindset from our origins. The US has some things we might learn or not. This can be discussed. Mm-hmm. But I have literally looked at thousands of CVs over the last years and hired hundreds of people, and there is often failure in the CVs. But if you can reflect on this, and I would say even now when we're hiring now in our own company, people who have done a startup and failed, and then literally can tell you very clearly what's the learning. It's great people. Amazing. Mm-hmm. Because when someone did this is someone with courage. Yeah, you're not hiding in large organizations in golden cages. And there are many great advantages there. And I have worked at McKinsey too, and it was a great time. But people who go out in our world, in the startup and scale-up world, risk something. Yeah, they have the courage to build. Yeah, that's great.
To live security, to bet all into something they believed in.
Yeah. Hey, look, and this courage comes, I think, from multiple angles. Yeah. So there is obviously founders who build something. That's the obvious case. But this is not only founders. Employees joining early stage startups is a good way. You take risks. Yeah. You go into these early companies and there's a relatively high likelihood that this will fail, but you do it nonetheless. I have a lot of respect and appreciation for people who join early stage startups, as well investors who raise their own fund. Being an investor sounds so sexy and great, but this is brutal work. You need to get money to invest. Often you don't know it when you look at this. The hard part of investors is not handing out the money to startups. The hard part is getting the money in the first place. Yeah, and this is as well risky, and you're going out and do risk something, but as well in the corporate world. I've worked with many people in the corporate world who literally told me, "Hey, Martin, this moves too slow. I now need to sign this contract with you, and I'll do it. I haven't fully aligned it internally, but I just do it." Yeah, and these people as well who work at the interface between corporates and startups as well, I have a lot of respect and appreciation for them.
Hey, liebe Freunde. Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I need a little bit of help. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can probably see the subscribe button. If you do, it would mean the world to us if you can subscribe. That's the best way to support the show. Because when you do, I can show it to potential guests and potential brands and stuff like that. And it really helps to grow the show in so many ways. Have cooler conversations, cooler guests, and it just helps in everything so much. So if you don't mind, thank you so much. Now, let's get back to the conversation. What is a typical day for an investor? What do you do? What does an investor actually does? You said that it's not just giving away money, but what is the actual work for an investor?
Yeah. Hey, look, so to be very transparent, what I'm currently doing or what I have done, I've worked for Techstars as investor and have invested in more than 80 deep tech and B2B SaaS startups. So this was a classical investor job. So literally I was handing out in a very selective way money to pre-seed, very early stage startup. Yeah. Pre-seed, we call people who are just literally getting started. This is often the first money they get. Currently, I'm building a marketplace for deep tech. So we are currently not yet investing, but we are have on our marketplace a lot of investors. So we facilitate investments and customer relationships between investors and startups and corporate partners and startups.
Okay, I see. You said that during on Techstars you were investing in B2B businesses and deep tech. What is deep tech?
In very simple terms, deep tech is about the application of a novel science in a product for the first time. Yeah? Daniel Metzler, ESA Aerospace, building very cost-effective rockets. Deep tech. Proxima fusion, Marvel fusion, firing up the power of the sun on Earth, i.e. building a fusion reactor. Deep tech. People who invent better ways of detecting breast cancer in radiographies, visual programming for robotics. These are companies that require deeper scientific knowledge and understanding, often more capital, often more time to become successful.
Okay, I see. So basically, real technology that helps humanity, basically.
Yeah, but the question is what's real, right? So, for example, I worked at N26, as I said. N26 is a fintech as well with a lot of technology. Nowadays, it's far easier. They have, of course, as well built a very strong tech stack. But the difference is now the deep tech companies are the scientific knowledge you need to build this is far higher. So imagine comparing an app in your pocket to manage your money with a fusion reactor. It requires more capital, more time, more iterations to power up this fusion reactor than launching the app.
I see.
And if you said before, if you have Reid Hoffman, if you're not embarrassed by a product you've launched too late, this is not possible often for a deep tech startup. You cannot fire up the fusion reactor in an MVP style, right?
Or a breast cancer.
Or breast cancer, like to just go out and try it. That's not this approach. I'm just firing this out fast and just test it. To a certain degree, in some areas of deep tech, this works because you go in the lab and experiment and do step by step, going up the technology readiness level. But in this form, how we've learned this over the last 20 years, minimal viable product buildings, that's how it's called. Yeah, you go out rather than planning it for years and then launching in the big bang, you go out fast and learn on the go. That's not possible with deep tech in that way.
And where is Europe standing in development of deep tech? Because in terms of AI, seems like Europe is not playing a big role, or at least there are no big known companies out there. In terms of electric vehicles, well, we lost the battle, or Germany lost a little bit the battle against China and the US with Tesla. So is this an opportunity for Europe?
It is a huge opportunity for Europe. Possibly it's the opportunity for Europe in the tech space. So yes, again, we were a bit too slow in a couple of areas. You just mentioned this. The number of investments, or the investments poured currently into AI in the US is groundbreaking, and we need to catch up. In particular in deep tech, the opportunity is huge. Yeah, so we have one of the strongest talent and knowledge bases of the world. For example, the number of STEM graduates here in Europe are at least 50% higher than in the US. Number of patents, we have 6 out of the 20 best computer science universities in Europe. There's a huge talent and knowledge basis, and everybody worldwide is recognizing this. The struggle we're having is turning this scientific knowledge into products and companies. That's the thing you need to overcome. But the basis, particular, imagine when you think back how we have rebuilt Europe after the Second World War, we have decades and centuries of history of scientific innovation. Yeah, Galileo Galilei, Isaac Newton, Marie Curie, Alexander Fleming. These are big scientific names who built literally deep tech in the past. So what I'm hoping is a renaissance of European deep tech.
I mean, we also the CERN in Switzerland.
Exactly.
That's a
good example. Yeah. As a good example, it's research, right? This is not a company; it's research, which is great. And you see now teams spinning out of what we do have, and we can talk about this. There are several breaks and barriers yet, which we need to literally overcome to really foster these deep tech innovations.
Do we have too many regulations in Europe?
Yeah, we do have. This is one of the biggest problems we're having. You're totally right. So I wish that we as Europe, and as well the new German government, for example, is very clear in one objective. We need to become the most innovative tech ecosystem in Europe, in the world. So thinking about if you build a company, particularly in deep tech, it should be in Europe and nowhere else. I think this is something where we should aspire to.
By that, you mean funding it here with technology from Europe and having the factories in Europe?
Yeah, obviously we're still, it might have been forgotten a bit. We're still living in a globalized world, which unfortunately goes a bit into more regional powers now, or literally deglobalization is coming. However, we're still living in a world where you need to be successful on a global scale. But launching a company here in Europe with this research and talent basis should be our goal, that this is the place to do this. Currently, very clearly, it's not in all aspects, very clear. The US is a very strong place to launch startups and companies. Europe needs to catch up.
Which one is the country where it's easier to start a company in Europe?
So now I wish I could say Germany or
I
here
think
Berlin.
we're not
You're doing a podcast in Berlin.
Yeah.
So it depends a lot who you are and where you are, what's your nationality, where you're based, and what type of company. So if you're starting a fintech, certainly Berlin, Frankfurt is a good place to be, but as well the UK is a great place. If you're just born in the UK, you would probably start your company there. If you're literally born here in Germany, you would have a tendency to do this here. France has a brilliant ecosystem over the last decade. President Macron and the French colleagues have done so many great things. Paris is in a particular strong ecosystem these days. So there are many good places in Europe, and I do think we can make them even better.
Fintech in Germany, or actually, no, in Germany is quite hard because you have the BaFin, and the BaFin will regulates a lot of the steps that you need to follow.
So I would say, now I'm out of fintech, so I can speak relatively freely. We do have a problem with over-regulation as well in the financial, in the fintech area. I hope very much that, again, the next government as well, the EU Commission again has this thinking. We want to become the most innovative, the strongest particular technology and innovation location on the planet. If we really believe this, then we have to massively change regulation, and the European Commission is on it.
Because sometimes it feels like they're innovating on what kind of regulations they can implement.
Exactly.
Because
that's exactly the problem. Yeah. So we want to be world leader in regulation, and this is completely the wrong direction. And this, I very much hope that it is now understood in Germany as well in Europe. We cannot continue on this path. Yeah. So you see thousands of people are laid off currently. We're losing companies, we're losing jobs. We have to change massively regulation. Yeah. And for example, fintech, let's talk about it's a good example. I've recently heard an example where a founder, famous fintech founder, told me, hey, the BaFin tells me I need to step out of my company because I'm too powerful. Yeah. And this, imagine there is someone, a non-elective bureaucrat, telling a founder who has invested years of his life and put his professional life at stake and tells you need to leave because you're too powerful in your company. I don't want to get another N26 case. There's something severely wrong. And I do hope next government and we all together change this.
Yeah.
As well, very clearly, there has been problems. Wirecard is an example, right? There have been massive fraud. And of course, we don't want criminals in the system. Okay, Wirecards, these were criminal people. It's not okay what they did, and this is why the BaFin reacted, and this is understandable. But we need to understand these entrepreneurs, these people who build the startups. This is the industry of the future. Yeah, so the vast majority of the value in blue chips companies in the US have been founded in the last 20 years. Here, the only company who has recently became really big and financially strong is SAP in Germany. So the basis of the industrial basis is too old. We need this renewal. And for this, we need people venturing out and as well being allowed to fail. But if you then, with a strict regulation, say, hey, look, do ABC, they will at one point say, hey, look, then I go to the US. I leave the continent. Other continents are better for me. That's what we need to prevent.
Yeah, true. I mean, you are someone who might have thought, and also I think you study university in quite elite university, so you could have had a chance to start your companies or to be
totally. I studied at the London School of Economics, so UK, and my wife is from Argentina, so we both have some South American roots. I could have easily done this, and many currently are doing this. So just I am, for example, Y Combinator competitive tax law says if you're a German company or a European, you have to found a US company and then flip the company to the US before you enter Y Combinator. This is the standard way of doing it. I think this is totally wrong. So the standard way is literally you build a Delaware company and then flip your company into this. But this means the regulation here in Europe and Germany just needs to adopt and be far more favorable so that we don't lose so many great founders and companies to other regions of the world.
But it has always been the case, or the complaint that I heard before from founders was that the amount of capital that we have in Europe, and especially in Germany, is not comparable to
Correct.
what the United States has, or it used to have at least 5 years ago, that were like just writing checks out of FOMO. And in Europe, in Germany, investors were more cautious when they wanted to do an investment.
Correct. I have just completed a fundraising round and I can relate to this with only one US investor on the cap table. He was the one, literally the story was, so this is our company is about advancing European tax sovereignty. So the investor base needs to be Europe. It's very clear. Mm-hmm. But we were open for 1 to 2 people, which we know from our network and who is well committed to Europe to invest. And the conversation with this one US investor went like this. He told us, hey, look, I could invest a certain small amount. And we said, hey, that's not enough. And then he said, okay, let me think about it. And he came back with 10 times the amount. Yeah. So, and he has written the largest check. This kind of boldness sometimes is not yet here. Yeah, but there are some reasons. There are some structural reasons for this. The investors of the investors is as well more conservative. Yes, the investors get the money from family offices here, for example, or large institutional investors. And the investors of the investors, so-called limited partners, are more conservative. That's one way. Oh. And the second way is we think about many things a bit more cautious and see often more the risks and then the colleagues in the US. And that's a bit of a cultural thing, but I do think we have already changed this to a certain degree and we'll continue to change it.
Yeah. They say some people see the risk rather than the opportunities.
Yeah, I would say an investor always has to see both. You need to see the risks, you need to see the opportunity. But there is, of course, if you believe that tomorrow will be better than yesterday, if you have this intrinsic optimism and this confidence, mm-hmm. This is something, of course, it helps in investing.
Nowadays, we are in a drought of investment. We are seeing a lot of layoffs in the tech industry. And for many people, we have in the last couple of years, the lowest rate of hiring for software developers, mm-hmm. which 5, 6, 7 years ago, that would have been unthinkable that a software developer will spend more than 6 months searching a job. Now the coin has flipped. They are having a hard time. And if software developers are having a hard time, how is it for product managers, marketing managers, and all the other people which the demand was not as high before? What is the current perspective or the future perspective for the job market and the investments and the growth of tech?
Hey, look, I wouldn't see this so pessimistic. So we had in 2021 a big bubble. It's very clear. Right? Okay, we've invested collectively in Europe more than 100 billion in venture. So in startups, Europe. This number went down in the last years. Last year, I think we were around 45 billion and the year before 47 billion. We're still in a stabilization phase. That's very clear. In a crisis, if money is not so loose, the best companies have been found. Airbnb, Tesla, big companies have been found in the last financial crisis. Times of crisis and scarcity often brings business models that are strong. You don't spend so much on marketing. So there are several things that literally give you some back burner in a crisis. I wouldn't say that we're still in a full-fledged crisis, but we're certainly not yet on the levels before.
But the Facebook or the big breakthroughs from Google, they all happen in the crisis. But the crisis led to a 0% interest rate or a very low interest rates. And that was, or the correlation to the investment in startup was because of the low interest rate. So investors will rather risk their money on this new ventures than to put it on the bank.
Absolutely. This helped.
We still have high interest rates currently,
which went down substantially already, right? So this as well helps us. So this is that you're pointing out a very important point. So literally, if you have very low interest rates, then investing in venture, which traditionally brings relatively good returns, but of course more risky, compared to just put the money on the stock market or just put it on a bank account, makes this venture more attractive. So rising interest rates is usually not so good for us, because then investors just say, I can move money out of venture.
Yeah.
However, now you see this very clearly, the interest rates went down again, right? So this again will help us in the medium term. I do very much believe there will be more bounce back effects in the next years to come. We will certainly see, and we're already seeing, the big focus on defense and resilience. That's a big topic in Europe. I'm sure that climate tech as well will come back. We will have more big crises where people will unfortunately die due to bad weather and natural disasters. So climate will stay at the forefront. We have many other really exciting areas coming. So there's quantum on the horizon, robotics is on the horizon. So many, many interesting fields to come.
Recently, based on what we saw with JD Vance in the security conference meeting, and also how the relations between the US and Europe and with Ukraine, this is all affecting the relations that we have with the United States. What's the opportunity there for Europe?
We in Europe might have needed someone like Donald Trump to kick us a bit in our bums. That's what's happening now. It sounds like we need a president like Donald Trump, that we finally get our act together. So while this is, of course, threatening and there is worry around this and fears, this has as well good sides. So we're recording this here beginning of March. So what happened over the last days, President Zelensky was thrown out of the White House, but over the weekend, there was a big summit in London where the leaders of Europe came together very quickly and literally said, hey, look, we might even send joint troops to the Ukraine to secure the peace. So the British Prime Minister, who's not in the EU anymore, says he would send troops to the Ukraine to defend European freedom. This is really remarkable. President Macron was very active as well. We have a new German government, and I'm sure they will step up the game. Europe and Germany have always been great in crisis. We can deliver in crisis. You see this here in what happened over the last years. When there was a threat of cold homes due to the lack of Russian gas, suddenly we were able to massively save energy. Suddenly we were able, within months, to build LNG terminals at the German coast. This would have been taken years, if not decades, but we did it in months. So if there is pressure, we can deliver.
Yeah, it's a wake-up call.
And I'm very confident in this. If there is this pressure, if everybody accepts there's pressure, we are very fast. But obviously we need the pressure.
So could be an opportunity there, and also, I guess, for deep tech to step up.
Yeah, this is a time of opportunity. And let's not forget this. If you're interested in building something, building a company or joining a company that is doing something new, and again, I'm very passionate about the startup ecosystem, it's a perfect time. There is pressure. Yeah. It's not, again, you just mentioned computer scientists who are a bit kind of look for jobs. So this is perfect for someone who found something, because you can get developers in very fast.
Yeah.
There's a very clear path what we need. Now, again, resilience and defense is one. These times are perfect for entrepreneurship.
What do you look in an entrepreneur?
Hey, look, from an investor perspective, there are many frameworks how you can look at this. I would always look at an entrepreneur. I would look for three things in an entrepreneur. First, the ability to craft and communicate a crystal clear North Star. This is often underestimated. You need to be able to sell and literally invent a new future, which you take your team and literally your customers, everybody who follows you and with you and along. So for example, we say what we are doing at Deep Tech Momentum is about leveraging and building Europeans' tech sovereignty. And we're building Europe's leading deep tech marketplace for capital and customers, where we want to catalyze 10 billion in venture capital in European deep tech and 10,000 partnerships between corporates and startups. So the ability to be very clear what we want is very important. And the best founders I worked with were very clear in their perspective how the future will look like and what they want. Okay, that's one thing, this clarity of North Star. Second, I would say it's courage. You want people who venture into the arena and fight, and who have a tendency to do this. These are often misfits, by the way. If people say, well, I've worked there and I've worked there and it somehow didn't fit. I think I need to do something myself. There's a misfit topic. Yeah? So you don't feel great in the existing paths on the big streets. You need to maybe craft your own path through a dense forest. This is maybe where you excel. And then third, resilience. Don't take a no for a no. As a founder, an entrepreneur, you will hear a lot of no's, not only on your product and tech, but as well on you. I will give you not money. I am not your customer. So you will hear a lot of no's. People say you want to hire. No, I don't want to work for you. Often they don't say it so directly, but the decision is there. And dealing with this rejections in a way, I don't take a no for no. It's a crucial skill for an entrepreneur. I've just founded a new company a couple of months ago, and we applied this as well. So the best hires I ever made were people who said no at the beginning. It's not perfect. You're not the perfect fit. It's not the perfect time. But if you stay close to them and maybe you send them some books, you stay in contact for months and months, at one point they say yes.
I actually like this exercise. I don't remember which reality show did this, but I like the exercise of going to a coffee shop, ask for a discount with no reason, just to get used to a no. First you go, can I get a 10% discount? No, we don't have a policy. Why not? I come here every day and try to convince them of the 10% discount. You probably won't get it, but it trains that muscle of being resistant to rejection.
Interesting. Good idea. Never heard it. Interesting idea. To search for no's and then train this muscle.
Yeah, you just get used to it. It's like when you're trying to date. I mean, the first times you want to ask a girl out and you feel like, oh my God, she told me no. But the more you practice, the more you understand that it's part of the process.
Totally. Exactly. And this is really probably one of the most important things. As well, by the way, with investors, that works too. If an investor says no to you, depends a bit on the context, but don't accept a no for a no. You can turn a no into a yes, with some exceptions. If it's an institutional investor with a clear process, it's very difficult. But if it's an angel, for example, and you see that they don't react and are slow, and you keep on pushing. Or for example, as well, when younger people now getting into good companies, I have as well people following up when we say no 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And if someone really shows that persistence, this says something about this person.
You mentioned something about the founders, and you mentioned that they need to have a clear North Star. Maybe you can expand on the meaning of it for the people who might be listening and not so familiar with the term.
This is now specifically focused on startups. Okay, that's what I'm referring here to. If you think about a North Star, there are a couple of things that really matter. So first, you need to be able to answer the simple question: you're building Europe's number one of X. What's your X? So what's the category you want to invent? That's one thing you need to be able to say. I said before, Europe's leading deep tech marketplace for capital and customers. That's our category. Who was the third person who crossed the Atlantic via plane? Many people don't know this, yeah? It was Amelia Earhart, but she was the first woman to cross the Atlantic by plane. She invented her own category. So the idea is you invent your own category that you can lead. This is one very, very important thing of a North Star. 2, you need to be able to say, why now? Why is this now the right time to build what you're doing? And the third thing is around your product. You need to be able to say very clearly the value proposition. So who's your customer? What's the business value you create? And then what are the features you're building? These are 3 elements of a very clear North Star.
I like that when a company has a very clear one, because then you know where all the actions need to be leading towards.
The most important thing to understand is you need to repeat your North Star over and over again. There's nothing more powerful. If you wake up your executive team in the middle of the night, they can all tell you the exact same North Star. Often, if you as a founder or entrepreneur, you think you know it and you have it clear in your mind, that does not necessarily mean the others see it. So you need to tell the North Star so often that you're personally bored with it. You can't hear it anymore. That's then the right amount of communication.
Is it possible to apply the same concept of a North Star in other type of business, not necessarily a tech startup?
Yeah, totally. So this was a surprise for me. I've written this book, which we have on the table, for scale-ups. You have product market fit, and you turn this into a unicorn. That's the idea. Unicorn, i.e. a company with a high valuation and a very valuable company. You can apply these principles to early stage startups. I'm currently doing it, and as well to a certain degree to non-venture startups. but it's just less relevant. So for example, this category question is important for an investor. I want to invest in that category in a leader. Ideally, we're creating a new category. If you're just creating another shoe shop, this is just not so important. But what is important is value proposition. Who is the customer? What's the value you create for the customer? And what exactly is your product?
That's a concept from Peter Thiel from 0 to 1, right? The category of one, I think he calls it, where you are
Peter
monopoles.
This is one interpretation of it, but Peter Thiel says literally, don't bring yourself in a world or in a position that the competition is irrelevant. Okay, you're so strong that the competition is irrelevant. This has something to do with category leadership. This is okay, but these are rare cases, right? And certainly a good thing to do. But you have often situations there, of course, competitors, and you want to beat competitors and want to be a leader in a category. But where it's a good observation, there is a relation. If you're inventing a new category, you often have in this category, this should not be so strongly competed for.
I think also, and Tim Ferriss, I don't know if you follow him, he mentioned something about that, like the category of one. When he started, he was the one in his category. Now everyone has a podcast. In his time was the category.
So he's not the lead. It's impossible, right? This is the category is too broad. But I think at one point he said something. He's the leader in podcast for very performance and self-optimization oriented people. Yeah. So there's a certain subcategory which he wants to lead.
Yeah. There's an important thing also. I mean, I'm in the content creation sector, let's say. And the niche is very important. So it's always like, what's your niche, and become a leader of your niche.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter how small your niche is, be the one in that niche, and then you can start expanding. But first you need to dominate that small niche.
Exactly. This is a very important principle. We're discussing this a lot with founders. Niche is good. Because you need a starting niche. Because in a starting niche, your customers are clear, the value you're creating is clear, your product is certainly often tailored to this niche. So often starting in a niche is great. And then, as you say, you can expand from there. If you're not able to define a niche that says something about you, then often you've not validated the idea enough and your product is not clear enough.
There was another concept that I like in your book, because you mentioned there were 4 organizational blocks. You mentioned there the North Star, the A+++ players, functional excellence, and growth capital. I'm very interested in the A+++ player. What does it mean, an A++? Normally call them just A player, but now it's with 3 pluses.
AAA, yeah. So this just means you want to work and create a team of literally the best possible players in your industry. Yeah. Now, the big challenge you have if you're building a company is there is operational pressure. We just see this here in our current company. I've seen this at N26. So for example, N26, we had the situation where customers were waiting for an hour if they didn't have access to their account. Imagine this. You have a problem with your account and you're waiting for an hour in the customer service line. This is a total fire. Yeah. What I learned in this critical moments, never ever lower the hiring bar. Even in that moment, you should, if you're under pressure and you have the feeling you don't have the right candidates, don't lower the hiring bar. Aim for this AAA team. And this means, of course, in different settings, different things. There's a certain reach you usually have in candidates, depending on literally your position and everything. But if you're not really excited, it's not literally the best you can imagine, or at least you're really excited about the person, don't do it. Yeah.
If it's not a yes, then it's a no.
We're, for example, now in a situation, we have in 2 months a conference and we're understaffed. It's an easy situation to say, okay, look, I have a pipeline of 10 candidates. Let's just take the best. That's what often happening. You're building a pipeline of candidates and you just take the best of the pipeline. But sometimes the best of the pipeline is not good enough. In this situation to say, okay, no, I've hired for 3 weeks. I have this thing coming in 6 weeks. In that situation, say, no, we let the fire burn and then go back to square one and rebuild a hiring pipeline and then take a better candidate than we had before.
Wow. Yeah, that's very interesting to hear, because I think I have made that mistake. I cannot find the right candidate, so I just take the best of what you
have in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And this almost always fires back. Yeah? I had situations where I did this, and then these were the candidates that sued us because we let them go due to lack of performance. It almost always fires back if you lower the hiring bar.
what if you cannot pay the ideal candidate?
You will not get to the bottom of your pipeline. So if they are literally saying, hey, look, I'm looking for some different, that's what I said before, there's a certain circle around you can reach in candidates. You're trying to expand that circle as much as you possibly can. For example, in early stage, you can give more equity, but less salary. And then if people say, hey, I need a high salary, this simply doesn't work. But still, you continue searching and be clear on the North Star, because that helps with the candidates. And then you try to get, at least from the circle of influence you're having, you're expanding this. And from this expanded circle, you try to get the best.
The United States has a vision of Europe that people in Europe are not hardworking. Recently, there was some stats from Germany that is the country that reports sick most of the time, or like the country that has more sick leaves in a year. Do you think there are in Germany enough AAA players, or is it hard to find them in Germany specifically or in Europe because there's a different mentality?
Okay, so first, this has nothing to do with AAA players. In that sense, we have a lot of really strong people here in Europe. But yes, of course, if we in particular have a social security system and a culture where there are a lot of safety nets and there's a lot of resources, there is a tendency to possibly not work so hard. But this is changing. We are seeing this now that we had 20 years, 15 to 20 years, in particular in Germany, where we probably relied a bit too much on the achievements of the past. And this time is over. So, and we're currently seeing this, that we have to do more investing in, again, European tax sovereignty, but as well in our security. And this will have some ripple effects on the amount and the intensity people will follow their dreams. And this is very important. It's the key thing is don't manage your time, but your energy. So if you're doing something where you're really passionate and you have just, this is the thing you want to do, time doesn't matter. You just invest time. That's what I would say. Would be my key recommendation. And this is a bit of a life phase topic. If you're young without children, it's a perfect time to work a bit more intense. If you have young children, that's often the problem. But even if children grow a bit older, then it's easier. But the key thing is stay close to your passion.
When you're doing something that you like, it doesn't feel like work.
Exactly.
It doesn't feel like work when I do the podcast.
Exactly. That's I hope this hour doesn't feel like work for you.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your investments, because now I have a clearer idea what deep tech is. What's the impact? Why it is important? What's the big chance for Europe investing on deep tech and developing more deep tech? Tell me a little bit about the examples. What have you invested?
Yeah. So as said before, I have invested in around 80 B2B SaaS and deep tech startups at Techstars. So we did this in particular in deep tech because we believe this is the next wave we need to foster. So one is about visual robot programming for SMEs. So literally you're helping.
What is SME?
As small and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay.
So for example, you have an automotive supplier, which is not so big, let's say 50 to 300 people, and they have robots. And you need to reprogram these robots fast. And this company helps them with just a wave of the hand to reprogram the robot. Visual programming. That's a great example. Another one is a greenhouse, an operating system for greenhouses. So literally you help greenhouse producers where they grow plants, tomatoes, for example. We give them a dashboard, or this company gives them a dashboard to see how much they need to water the plants, how much CO2 they need to inject, and so on. This is an operating system for greenhouses, a great one. We had a great Gen AI company in the insurance industry, a vertical application in the insurance industry, helping in the customer service there. So these are type of companies. We did a lot as well in bio, so helping so-called tech bio, where you have the application of research of AI to the R&D process of pharma companies. So in the former times, you needed 10 to 15 years to find a molecule. With application of AI, in particular Gen AI, in the R&D portfolio optimization process and finding process, it just requires not 15 years, but no 3, not 15 billion, but maybe 500 million.
And what in other countries, what other examples are you seeing in Europe of deep tech development?
So France is in particular strong. We have a very strong growing AI ecosystem in Paris. there's the so-called golden triangle in between Oxford, Cambridge, and London, where there's a lot of biotech, tech bio going on, really strong ecosystem. We see in Switzerland around the universities, ETH Zurich, for example, is really strong. There are many other good cases in Europe.
If you would be able to start again investing, would you still pick Germany to start your first investments and start your first companies?
It's a good question. Hey, due to my family situation, I have 2 small children. It's currently very difficult to relocate to the US. I certainly would have taken time to go to the US and to experience the ecosystem there. At one point, I will certainly do this. But I do think the US obviously is an advanced ecosystem. Yeah, so there is a lot of investments going on, but as well, the quality of the companies, the quality of the investments is very high. So that's certainly something I would have tried to observe. I am at heart European. I'm a deep believer in European values. I'm a deep believer in our history and the potential of the continent, and I will always stay true to this.
To the roots.
Yeah, to the roots. Exactly.
How can entrepreneurs and founders who might be listening to this maintain their mental health and their mental balance? What has worked for you?
Being close to your passion. Again, the same topic. So if you do something which you truly believe is a great thing to do, and it aligns with your values and your mission in life, and your life purpose, this is the most powerful thing for your mental health. This is a very personal question in the sense that it depends on what's valuable to you. For me, in my life, in my professional life, doing something that changes the world into a better place and really having a purpose beyond myself, the company, and the narrow cause we're working to contribute to society at large is something very dear to my heart. So if I'm doing this, currently what I'm doing is very close to this. This is a key thing for mental health. Yeah, but this depends a lot on yourself. There are people who care a lot for relationships and a social environment. Then it's really important to hire a team and build a team that as well caters to this. Yeah, so there are others who really care about efficiency and processes. So, it depends a bit your professional preference where you want to be. If you're particularly open to a certain degree of risk, if you are a creative person and as well an analytical person, and you love fast-moving environments, then kind of being in the arena, in the entrepreneurial arena is something very powerful.
If there is one takeaway from this book, one that you can say, this is the most important one, what will it be?
Hey, the one key thing which is very dear to my heart, and this literally is in every chapter of this book, but often implicitly, is about dare to enter the arena. Yeah, there's this nice quote of Theodore Roosevelt who said, "It's not the critic who counts. It's not the one who points out how the strong man stumbles. It's the one who fights in the arena. It's the one whose face is marred with dust, blood, and sweat. Because if this person fails, he at least or she at least failed daringly and is not amongst those timid and cold souls who neither know victory nor defeat." So this idea, I'm fighting in the arena, I have the courage to build something, to found something. This is the general idea of the Builder's Guide to the Tech Galaxy.
Martin Schilling, thanks for coming to the podcast. You're having an event very soon.
We are running Europe's largest deep tech bootcamp. Yeah, so this means if you're a founder or an investor interested in deep tech, we are super interested to hear from you. It's literally Europe's leading deep tech investors, founders, and corporate partners. 1,500 people here in Berlin in May, and it's invite only, so you can't buy a ticket. You need to apply, and we're selecting literally the AAA. We discussed it before: AAA founders, AAA investors, AAA corporate partners, to massively boost Europe's tech sovereignty with deep tech, and we are thrilled if many great people show up.
Sounds very exciting. So if there's one a AAA player listening to the podcast, you can check out the link. Martin Schilling, thanks for coming to the podcast, sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge, and giving us a little bit of hope for Europe in the tech space.
It was a big pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. All right.